Carthage must be destroyed. Today we're going to continue on with the life of a miniature. That is my building of a miniature and doing all the steps from when it's just being built up from its place on a sprue all the way up to its final painted and varnished mode. Now last time we went through taking pieces off the sprue and assembling a guy and cleaning up the figure's mold lines. You can see here, and I think I've got the better light going on here now, that I've removed the mold lines here. He looks a lot more smooth. You can see some evidence of some residue and powder from that plastic being scraped off. But in today's next step, we're going to counter that. I also added the turban tail on the back there, and I just did that after on my own. I have them in the Perry kit, and for these guys I didn't have to add them. The turban on its own would have been fine, but I just think they look better when they add it. This is my personal preference there. I should say, as I'm filming these here too, and a few people mentioned this in be it the comment section, or some people even had a couple people on Facebook just message me. There are lots of cheaper alternatives to what I'm using. I'm not endorsing using only Games Workshop. It's just what I had available, and I wish I would have got some other tools back in the day, but I didn't know any better. I just was strictly Games Workshop, and you know, that's all I got. Warhammer back then, and that's all I got for tools and paints as well. But there's tons of different companies out there, and you'll see when I paint this guy up, I start bringing out other stuff and using other companies as well. But yeah, I just want to say that you don't strictly have to use what I'm using. There's tons of alternatives. This is just what I have at hand, and how I use the stuff at hand to put together a model. Anyway, the next step here is to wash this mini. I always recommend washing minis because when things are made in metal or plastic, they've got residue, and some of the residue you can see, and you can see it after. You can see on the leg there, you get some dust from removing the mold line. He's got some on his beard there. The residue could be made by human interaction when you're putting the model together, or you know, greasy fingers touching the mini. But I don't know how much residue comes from factory or mold production, but there's also residue I guess you can't see. For metal models, this is really the case. I think you really have to clean metal models. And for plastic models, I clean plastic models. I know a lot of people though that don't clean their plastic models, so they skip this step. But I don't. I think every model should be cleaned. It's up to you if you want to. I have put models together in the past that are plastic, and I didn't clean them, and they turned out fine. But just because I want my model to be the most, I guess, healthy before I go into painting, I will wash them. Now there's many ways to wash a mini. Well, I'm not going to say there's many ways, honestly. There's not many ways to wash a mini, I should say. There's many containers you could use to wash a mini, or you could just use tap water to run over. But I do this for all my metals and all my plastics. I just get some sort of container. Here I've got an old, I don't remember what it was, but it holds water. And I just fill it up with water, I pop my mini in, and then I add some detergent. And you know, this is just Dawn dish detergent. Look, there's a duck there. Original scent. I just get some neutral, standard, whatever you want to call it, dishwashing detergent, dishwasher soap. Put a little in there. That might have been a bit too much for one mini, but whatever. And then I just, I'm going to use my finger here. If you don't want to have any, if you're scared of getting damage from soap or stuff from dishwasher detergent or dishwasher soap, don't use your finger. I just swirl it around, and I let the minis, and I'd usually do more than one, but I would just let the minis sit there and swirl around a bit. And I normally don't leave them in there that long. I would say about, I just do 5-10 minutes, and that's just to get the residue off. Sometimes I'll grab the mini and I'll shake it around a bit, and you know, get those bubbles working. Some of that residue coming. You can see a hair came off the, I don't know if the hair was there in before, or if it was on the model and I didn't see it. Now you can't really see it, I think, in this camera, but a lot of that residue will have flown off. And that's why I do that, just so I can get that residue off and go on with it. Now, some people might think that washing their plastics is a bit excessive. You know, running under tap water will just remove the residue. I think if you want to try that and it works, it's fine. This is just how I do it. For metals, you should wash your minis though. There's just, I think, too much hidden stuff you may not see on there, and metal pieces that are kind of, I guess, stuck to the mini. If I was doing plastics, well, when I do plastics, what I do here is I just let them sit and shake them a bit and it's good. If I'm doing metals, I'll use a toothbrush and I'll rigorously scrub each piece before assembly. And I think I'm going to do another set of videos before I get into metal. But this one's just for plastics, so maybe I'll do a metal washing video sometime. But for plastics, I assemble first and then I wash them. I guess you could do this if you wanted to wash each plastic part individually before assembly, but I find that the plastic glue, after it's cured for like 24 hours, is strong enough to withstand soap and water because it's all been bound together. It's melted together essentially, so I've never had a problem washing them like this. They've never fallen apart on me if they're plastic. I think they would if they're metal, because metal uses super glue. But I like I said, I don't wash them I don't wash them before assembly. But for metals, I wash all the pieces first and rigorously brush them with an old toothbrush before I put them together. Anyways, after I let that sit a bit, I just go to a sink, kitchen, bathroom, wherever. And I'm gonna try and do this with one hand, but I just take him out of my my water there where he's got the soap in it. And for plastics, I just rinse them off. Just doing this with one hand, so sorry if it's a bit messy there. But I just rinse them off if they're plastic. I give them a good rinse. And that should take off any residue that's still stuck on even after the soap goes on. And there we go, you can see, and it's actually better lighting in the bathroom than where I'm working. But now you can see that there was some residue earlier on the shake them a bit. There's some residue on the beard and the legs there. Now it's gone because I washed it. So now I'm gonna go put it on a paper towel and I'm just gonna let it dry. I let my guys naturally dry. You could use a blow dryer to speed up this process, but I'm just gonna let them sit and naturally dry a little bit and then go on to the next step. So I got this guy on a paper towel here, and what I'll do is I'll let one side dry. I might put him on the side or something. But at this point, I don't want to touch the plastic a whole lot, because if my hands are dirty or have some oil on it, then I find that may add back to what I washed off. It's not so bad with plastics. Again, it's more of a metal thing, but I kind of follow similar steps when I do plastic or metals. Now, I want to point out here that when this guy's drying here, just to get it filmed, that last time we're talking about there's a little bit of a gap between his what do you call it, his shoulder blade and his torso there, and it's not so bad on the other side. I probably won't do much on that one, especially on the back. This tail here actually covered his back side here fairly well, so I'm going to just do a tiny amount of filling in the front here. I don't need to do but terribly much. I don't really mind so much if it's like flawlessly connected. But I will add a bit. I'm going to use the liquid green stuff from Citadel. Mine, unfortunately, is really old. I don't know if you can see that really well. It's really old and dried out. A bit of water will reactivate it a bit and give me just enough to cover the small topical areas that I want to cover. And I also, for bigger jobs, have started using Milliput. Some of these Afghans have some really big gaps between their belt line, and I just want to use this stuff to fill the mold line. And this stuff is fun because it's putty, and you can use it for all sorts of things. But some people use it for I guess gap filling. What you do is you take a little bit of each of these and you're going to rub it in your finger, and for, I think it says 10 to 15 minutes on the box. Yeah. It says at least 5 minutes, not 10, it's a little long. But for 5 minutes, you just want to kind of rub it together between your fingers, and it'll form kind of like a clay. It takes a few hours after to fully dry, but I'm gonna put a tiny amount just between his arms there, because he got a bit of a gap that might be a bit noticeable. And then I'm going to cover that area with liquid green stuff. Alright, so I did a bit of this off camera. I actually put green stuff instead of milliput in that little gap there. I just thought I just thought that the gap was a little too small for using milliput and using my time to roll it up. So I just put the liquid green stuff in there using water. If you have fresh stuff, it'll be much easier to use. But now I've got it, you can see it's kind of dry in there. It's not, when it starts to dry, I noticed if it's thin, it starts to kind of look, it starts to go transparent. But that's okay, that isn't really deep, so I'm not going to worry much about that. But yeah, I just use either some sort of milliput or some putty or green stuff to fill in those gaps as best I can. I'm not really good at this step here that I'm doing right now, as you can maybe some of, if you are more experienced modelers are saying. I just do the basics so I can have a guy that has at least his the minimal amount of, how do you want to say, gaps covered up. So if you want to know more about this stuff, you're gonna have to get some, I would think you'd want some better tools, a better a better system, and a lot of practice, I think. His green stuff in his arm here might even be a little too thick here. Might add a little too much to his shoulder there, but I think it should be okay once it dries. If green stuff, the liquid stuff, gets on your model and thins them out around the models and stuff, I try and clear as much as I can off. Sometimes though it really doesn't do anything. And again, this is just how I use it. I'm showing you how I go through it. You could skip all these steps and be fine if you really wanted to, I think. But in any case, now I gotta let that dry. Green stuff in small amounts isn't gonna take long to dry. Milliput takes a lot longer. Other putties take much longer. But this guy should be good to do priming up here very quickly. Okay, so you can still see actually that after the green stuff starts to dry a bit, there's still a bit of a gap. I'm going to continue to work with this a bit and try and make it optimal, but I'm not going to film it all. And once I'm done, I'm going to actually let it completely dry. So I'm going to end the video here for today. And, oh, my hand is shaking so badly there. I'm going to end the video for today, and then in the next video, we're going to look at priming a miniature. That'll also allow me to break up the videos so they're not so long. So if you have any comments or questions or suggestions on how I can improve my process of of filling in gaps and filling in gaps and taking out abrasions in the model, yeah, just please let me know, because I'm still fairly, I want to say new. I don't want to say new, but I haven't done a lot of experience in proper filling. I just do it so it's, when it gets covered by paint, it's not so noticeable. So yeah, if you have any comments or suggestions, just let me know. And on the next video, we'll get into the priming of miniatures. So have a good one.